That's Karl.
That's Emma. And this is Rittal unBoxed.
So Karl.
Yeah?
We've got a special guest on the show today.
We do indeed.
We've got Matthew from Bensons Controls. So he's going to come in and talk to us about their business and everything panel building, sort of what does the future hold, technologies, new markets, that type of thing. So I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. So he's our first customer guest on the show.
He is, and I know he'll do a good job. I've met him before. We've seen him when I've been over to Hanover Fair and things, and you know they're doing some good things over there. So I'm going to be interested to see what he's going to say.
Well, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Hi Matthew.
Hello Emma.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So you're our first customer guest on the show.
Yeah.
I'll try and set a high standard.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So really just wants to have a conversation with you in terms about your background, the business, Bensons, you know, sort of what you're doing there, what we're going to see coming through in the future. So yeah, if you can just give us a bit of an overview of your background personally, really, to start with.
Yeah, so start with Bensons maybe. So Bensons, we're a control panel manufacturer. So what we do is we solve problems for stressed engineers. And the way we do that is by designing and building high quality electrical control panels. Been doing it for nearly 60 years, I believe. Goes back, lost in the list. And the kind of things that we can do, we employ about 42 people at the moment. So we can do big projects, we can do complicated projects, we can do quick turnaround projects, and we can do cost-effective projects. We don't do cheap ones. But if you roll up the overall package and the solution, you pay a bit more for your control panel, it turns up on time, works perfectly, and you go straight into commissioning once you plug it all in.
Yeah.
So really we've got different propositions, and then on some projects we have to do them all at the same time. As I say, we've been doing it for quite a while, and now it's a case of trying to build a sustainable business that can go forward into the future, continue to improve and to grow and to get better at what we do.
And then you as an individual, what's your background in terms of, you know, previous working life?
Yes. So I started working at Bensons probably in the mid-80s, I think. Might have been before I was legally allowed to work, I don't know.
Things were different back then, it's fine in the 80s.
Yeah, what happens in the 80s stays in the 80s. So my father was the MD until 2000. So whilst all my mates were out playing football in the summer holidays, I was learning about control panels.
You were grafting.
It's
more fun.
Not for much money, as I seem to recall. So what did I do? I used to do photocopying, sweeping up, do drawings in the days of drawing boards, film, ink, getting covered in ink when you go home and get told off by your mum. So then went through that, did all that sort of stuff. Went to university, messed up my A-levels, didn't work. I applied myself at drinking, playing rugby and chasing girls.
Is that not what it's about at that point? I went to A-levels
Yeah, I didn't really deliver. So scraped into university, so I got onto an engineering science course, which had a foundation year for people who hadn't done physics and maths A-level. I turned up, but I hadn't really done them. So then that was a bit of a kick up the backside and learning experience, so really got my head down, and at the end of the 4 years I came top of my year, so clearly competent. And then it was a case of what should I do next? So I didn't want to get a job because I was the boss's son, so I decided I'd go off and do my own thing.
Yeah.
So I worked in a number of different industries in technology over a number of years. So the big ticket items, the big learning experiences, had 3.5 years in the late 90s, working in a factory in South Shields as a process engineer. So we were making printed circuit boards. Chap who owned it was kind of running it as an experiment. So we grew 40% every year on year, for 3 years. And the environment was a bit hostile, didn't really look after its people. But I worked for a really nice guy called James, who was head of process engineering, who looked after his team and helped us to perform at the level we needed to do. After one ticking off, should we say, too many in public, it was a case I can do something else. So I moved on, had a spell working in an oil company, and then that wasn't really me, but a square peg in a round hole. So I rang up James, can you be a referee on a job application? Yeah. He went, come and work for me. So somehow ended up working for Motorola, so worked on the first 3G base stations that we built. Then transitioned into working on mobile phones. So worked my way through, so I was leading program manager, leading development of mobile phone handsets from here's an idea on a piece of paper, here's a box on the shelf. Then the iPhone came out. And about 1,000 of us in Europe got whole new career opportunities. So So I had 6 months off riding my bike, and then moved into low carbon energy. So I was lucky enough to land a job with the Energy Technologies Institute, which was a public-private partnership, so half funded by government, half funded by industry, to identify and then run development projects to prove and evaluate the low carbon energy sources that the country needs to hit its 2050 targets. So worked in collaborative R&D, then moved into a couple of other organisations. Everybody's got a spell on their CV that doesn't quite stack up, so I had a couple of missed moves. But then ended up in what I thought at the time was my dream job. So I was working at the Transport Systems Catapult. I was head of systems engineering, had a team of about 40 people who were all cleverer than me. One of them was a qualified rocket scientist. And we just kept working at the bleeding edge of transport systems in the UK. Autonomous vehicles, safety systems, drones, great. I got to work with academia, got to work with government, got to work with SMEs, got to work with big business to try and bring the whole thing together. And then Helen rang me up, my sister, who's the MD at Bensons, and we met in a trampoline park in Corby in 2017. And she basically said, Keith, who's the MD at Bensons, Dad retired in 2000, so Keith's retiring, do you want to buy him out? So this was an opportunity to then go, right, I've worked in some really good organisations that have looked after the people, worked in a few that haven't to the same extent. I've learned lots of good stuff, seen lots of bad things. Can we bring all the good stuff into one place?
Yeah.
So we spent a year learning how to buy a company, and then we spent the last 6 years learning how to run a company. So far, so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So you spent the last 6 years learning how to run a company. I suppose that's always an ongoing, always learning, always evolving.
Every day's a school day.
Every day's a school day.
Yes.
Not a bad mindset to have though, that, to be fair.
Absolutely, you've got to be willingness to take on new and develop and move forward.
And if I only knew then what I know now.
That's a wonderful thing. You mentioned that you work for some really good companies who looked after the people, and that's obviously then the mindset that you took forward then and want to keep taking forward to your people.
Yes.
I'm assuming that plays a massive part in the culture of the business.
Yes, so fundamentally building control panels is a skills-based business. So you need people to design them and you need people to build them. Yes, you can buy some automation equipment. Fundamentally, it's people using their hands and using their brains to design and build something. So skills-based, which means you can only be as good as your people. So you want to bring the best people possible that you can get hold of, attract them in, so you've got to be a good employer to bring them in. And then if you want to retain them, you've got to be a really good employer, otherwise they'll go off and exploit their career elsewhere. So that's the ethos we've tried to bring, is we need to be a really good employer. It allows you to get the best out of people. And if you take a step back, everybody is somebody's brother, sister, husband, father, so let's treat everybody with the respect that they're due. And then that helps to get the best out of everybody. If they feel valued and they're respected, then they're going to work better, basically. We're all going to work better together and win together. So that's the ethos that we try to instill. I think we have instilled. I think we've got there, and now it's a case of let's exploit that and let's take it forward.
Yeah.
So that's a great attitude, great mindset to have. In terms of skill shortages at the moment, is that a big area that you're struggling with? Is it something you've had to address?
Yes.
Right, okay. Quite a short answer, yes it is.
Well, we're not surprised because we hear it a lot from customers around the country.
So we've tried to build up our sort of position in the community locally. So we've engaged last year with the Leeds Manufacturing Festival, and we're on board as one of the supporters this year. And it's really manufacturing organisations in the region promoting manufacturing as a career, as an opportunity. Because we're all afflicted by the same problem of not being able to there is a skills shortage in the sector. So we can all sit back and moan about it and do nothing, and then we'll be moaning for years. Or we can all do something, and everybody has a little bit to do. So our piece is, we committed heavily to apprenticeships about 4 years ago. We want to develop our next generation of workforce, and we want to create rewarding careers in engineering and manufacturing. So apprenticeships is a slow burn thing. So our first apprentice qualified in October, November last year. And when people ask me what's the best, what's the thing you're most proud of at Bensons, it is the apprenticeship scheme, because we helped to create some careers for people. So Ben qualified last year. Tom's sitting his exam tomorrow. Hopefully he passes, then that'll be our second. Dan joined us nearly a year ago. and then we're just going to market now. It's that season, so we want to take on 3 more apprentices this year. And then also, as an investment in people, one of the other guys in the office, we're putting him through a level 4 apprenticeship, which will help give him more skills and capability and understanding, which will allow him to progress his career within the business. So it's development at all levels.
So you mentioned obviously the apprenticeship scheme's quite an important thing to the business. I think one thing you talked about earlier on was, the ethos of the business, treating people the right way, and I think that's really good when you've got youngsters coming in an apprenticeship, that they move forward with the same morals and values and ethics. I think it sets you on your career path. It makes them good leaders moving forward.
Yes.
So I think that's really important when you look at apprenticeships. And again, we're seeing apprenticeships come through more and more.
Yeah.
I think the way we've approached it as well is you just recruit on attitude. So it's about, you speak to lots of young people, and you're just looking for someone who's got a bit of spark about them. And then Ben, who I was saying, who qualified last year, I think he had the shortest interview of all of them. He just walked in and it's like, you'll do. And he went out looking really disappointed because it only lasted about 10 minutes.
He prepared himself for
to
this.
bring him up and apologise afterwards, going, I'm really sorry, but it was just so obviously a yes.
You can't teach that though, can you, in terms of, like, say, that attitude? You can't teach that. It's something that...
Yeah, like you say, spark, certain people have that, don't they?
Yeah. So we talk about, obviously, there's a skill shortage and you're addressing that from a
we're doing our bit. Yeah.
Personnel perspective, with people. What about technologies? Is there anything coming through there that that you're looking at the moment?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you look back at what Bensons has done over the years, so we've always been at the forefront. So I mentioned my father as the MD, but he was the early adopter. So as a result of that, we moved early from big drawing boards and film to CAD systems, so I recall squinting into a computer about that big. In fact, we only put it in a skip about 3 years ago.
You should have kept it to be a museum for that long, there's somewhere, to be fair.
Yes, but we had a reputation. I think we had a few orders in the business. So we're really into CAD. We've invested in automation systems in manufacturing. I think we were one of the first people to have a Perfrex machine on the shop floor.
Yep, you were the first in the UK, you were.
Probably one of the first to have 2.
You were the first one too, yes, that's right, yeah. So very early adopters.
So we've done what we can to automate the manufacturing processes, and the benefit that gives as well is if you get it right once and you drill in the right holes in the right places, you get it right every time.
Yeah.
So again, there's a big investment and legacy of hard work gone into that. But where we've really invested, there's a lot you can do from a technology point of view, but also going back to the skills-based thing, there's a lot that we've invested a lot over the last couple of years in developing our systems and manufacturing processes, and really doing that through our people. So we've done a lot of training on lean manufacturing to everybody on the shop floor. We've appointed 4 manufacturing champions, as we call them, or continuous improvement champions, to really lead continuous improvement in the workplace. We had a habit of finding problems, being heroes, working around them, but never putting them to bed. So now it's a case of, right, this is a problem, this is how you get to the root cause. You can use different techniques, 5 whys, Ishikawa diagram, or what have you. Let's put them to bed so we fix it and we don't make the same mistake again. And that allows us to improve our productivity. And then the way we've tried to put it across to the team is, yes, we want to be more efficient, but I don't want you to work harder. I want to make it as easy as possible for you to do a really good job. And nobody's argued with that. And to be honest, if somebody said to me, I'm going to make it easier for you to do a great job, Matthew.
Well, that's because that's your mindset, is how you approach that interview, is having a different mindset. And I think that's what you've got, in terms of getting somebody to view it from another perspective, in terms of changing that.
So
I think that makes
willingness to embrace change and new solutions.
That makes a big difference.
You have to turn your eyes open.
And actually, the really good bit is, so when you're in charge of a company, you can do what you want.
To a
certain extent. But if it got to the stage now where if I try and squeeze something through or shortcut the process, I get told off.
Yep.
So it's good. This is working. This is great.
You're upholding your own rules, aren't you?
Absolutely. So you've got to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
So it's working.
Have you seen, obviously you're trying to push innovation from your side maybe towards customers, but have you found your customers are also trying to drive change in you as they take the next step and implement their technologies and new systems and things?
Yes, and it's different stratas within the customer base, but certainly some of the more we work with people from like a man in a shed, and we work through to some really big blue chip companies. And different customers have different demands. But what we see increasingly is there's always a drive on cost. Can you be more cost effective? Which again, through the lean manufacturing, the process improvement, that allows us to be more competitive from that point of view. And then we also get pushed to adopt can you incorporate this particular componentry, increased intelligence in the system, increased levels of reliability in some of the sectors that we work in. We've done a lot of work over the last year in the electric vehicle sector, and there we have to provide a 5-year warranty on the parts and labour and the quality of the work that we do, which we're happy to do. So it's a continuous process of stretching yourself, knowing what you can do, what you can do with the stretch, and what you can't do. And it's about being really honest with this, and if you can't do it, just say no. Don't bluff it.
Should have burned them bridges, aren't you, if you come up short in the end? Or
well, we spent 60 years building a reputation, and you can torch it in a week if you don't care.
It quickly goes, doesn't it? It takes longer to build it to break that down.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything wrong sometimes in saying no or being honest. You know where you are. If somebody says we can't achieve this, or we can't achieve that time frame, or whatever it may be, that's fine. People can work with it if they have that information.
Clarity makes decision making easier. And if somebody comes to us and says, "Can you do this? Can't do that. Do you want to speak to Bob down the road or what have you?" So you give that recommendation. So say at the beginning, we try and pitch ourselves as problem solvers. So if we've helped you to solve a problem, you remember us, and you might come back when we've got a problem that you can solve. So it's really from that point of view.
I must admit, we have done that. I know we've done that as a business before. Sometimes people come to us, and it's just that it doesn't fit within our portfolio or our solutions, and we've actually recommended other companies, because you think, well, you're offering the customer a solution ultimately. You say, it's trying to offer them something that's not going to work. It affects your reputation. Actually, we're all here really to do a good job, aren't we? So sometimes recommending somebody else is the right thing to do. So
absolutely.
Well, if you're really lucky, they'll recommend you back at some point.
You'd like to think
exactly.
so.
You'd like
That's
to
right.
think so,
Yeah. I mean, so we talked about sort of different technologies and that, and what changes have you seen in the business in sort of from the 80s in terms of not just necessarily technologies but markets that you've worked in as well? Have you seen fundamental change in terms of where you were back in the 80s to where you are now? Or
so I think Bensons was built on the back of the heating and ventilation sector, or BMS, whatever you want to call it, which is very tied to the construction industry. So when the construction industry is busy, well, hey, but if you're only in one sector, you're up and down. The late 80s, we got involved in the distributed energy sector, so off-grid power generation, CHP systems. So we started working with a company called Combined Power Systems in Manchester. I do recall being sent across in the delivery van and told to park outside their gate and not move until they'd paid us. And it's one of those, "Are you sure, Dad?" He's like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay."
How times have changed.
So CPS became Energy became Centrica. So we had a 25-year working relationship with those guys. That allowed us to then engage with Siemens from a switchgear point of view. So by working with your customer, you can then say, actually, if you allow us to use this equipment, we can save you cost, we can deliver you a better product. And that was, we've got 20-year working history with Siemens now. We're a really close supportive partner, similar to Rittal. So it's a couple of sectors there. In the they did a lot of work through the 70s and 80s in swimming pool and energy efficiency, which then led us into swimming pool filtration systems in the early 90s, I think it was. So the first job we did was Ponds Forge Leisure Centre for the World Student Games.
Just up the road,
So again, took my truck down there, delivered the first panels, and we just last year built a suite of panels to replace them after 30 years. So worked in the pool sector. That's grown over the years. And then more recently, we've really looked at where's the opportunity. So we looked at what sectors we're good at, what are the adjacent sectors, where we can exploit our skills and capabilities. And where we've managed to succeed is we're just delivering our first project now as a commercial solar farm. And then over the past year, we've done an awful lot of work in the EV sector, which again is paying off, and that exploits our ability to build a really high quality solution and to look after our customer. So it's really, at the end of the day, control panel turns things on and turns things off. It's just different things to turn on and off, and different requirements. And it's really trying to find areas where we can exploit our skills and capabilities.
We've talked in some previous episodes about the energy and power sector, and obviously how fundamentally how huge that is, and it's going to carry on and carry on and carry on, and we're seeing people move more and more into that market, aren't we?
Absolutely, diversifying into it, yeah, 'cause it's sort of a rocket to catch hold of as it takes off over the coming years.
It's one of those things where you talk about the skill shortage is something that afflicts the UK. Energy is something that afflicts the entire world, so it's a sector where we've all this collective responsibility to make a success of it.
Yeah, and we have to, don't we? That's
You
the thing, you can't really
yeah.
fail that one, so it's not going to go away, is it? So it's a good thing to stick into,
Yeah.
So what, I mean, in terms of, we've talked about technologies, and that's only ever going to change. Things such as AI, do we think that potentially might have an effect in terms of panel building in the future? Is that something that we need to be
It's an
concerned
interesting
about?
one, isn't it? It's an area of personal interest, because it's just, wow, what's going to happen here? 'Cause you just don't know. And it's happened, whatever is going to happen, it's happening fast. But so the bit that's got my brains rattling in the evenings is what does that mean from a design point of view? So a good control panel is really logical, and you can follow it, you can understand what it does and how it does it. So what's to say you can't have an AI that designs your control panel for you? So these are the inputs, these are the outputs, these are the interlocks, these are the power. This is the power that needs to be switched. And it's not beyond the wit of man to say that you just press a button and there you go.
Yeah.
Who makes that happen? I don't know. When it happens, I don't know. But it's a scenario that you can see coming through.
Within the realm of possibilities.
But I think the difference is with yourself, not just with you personally, but with Bensons as well as a business and everything we've talked about, being early adopters is actually potentially embracing some of that as it comes through, understand that it's not going to, it doesn't have to be a bad thing for your business. It can be a great thing for your business, it's working with it.
It's a tool at the end of the day. So what do? We offer a really high level of support, service. People like doing business with people. So it's how would you blend something like that into the overall proposition that you go back to the customer with. But if you can say to them, I can solve your problem and I can turn a design round, I don't know, like that, and I can still give you the level of support and service, and I've got the oversight to know that you don't just go computer says yes and believe it. You've then got to have that mindset to challenge it and really evaluate it. So it's trying to blend that into the overall proposition that you go back to people with. And when that happens, or if it happens, I don't know, but it's a really interesting area.
Well, we're already seeing it coming through, aren't we, in other areas. We had AI create our Rittal Lego.
That went well down.
The demand has been unbelievable. Everyone's been
Yeah.
asking if we can actually buy that, but it is quite scary to, like I said, see how quickly AI has become part of our lives, and we're not even aware that it's become part of our lives. I think that's the other thing as well. You're not aware when it's potentially AI or not.
So I'll give you an example. I did an audio book in the car recently, all about the coming wave, what's going to happen in the world of AI. And sometimes you start an audio book, you think, oh, this is going to be hard work. You just don't get on with the narrator. And the prologue, got through the prologue, and at the end of the prologue, it just says, and this was written and read by an AI. And you're like, oh dear Lord,
yes.
What's going to happen? Wow.
Yeah. You can actually work with the AI as well. I know that obviously we've been experimenting with chat. Is it Chat GTP?
Yeah.
I'm not that down with the kids, unfortunately. And you can actually say, I want it. Can you write something in the context of this, or can you use it as if in somebody else's style or the way you speak? And I just find that completely mind blowing. But like I said, we have to embrace it. It's going to come.
Yes.
So there's no point fighting against it, because it is what it is. So what's the future for Bensons? Into the next 5 years. What's the plans for Bensons? What's your vision, yours and Helen's vision for the business?
Funnily enough, we consumed a lot of tea yesterday afternoon discussing this. So where we are at the moment, we see the opportunity. Where we are, we've got a defined piece of land. We think we can put another 50% on the turnover on that spot, with some improvements to the way we do things, with a lot of hard work and a similar sized workforce. So there's an opportunity there to grow the business. We're a completely family owned business, which has its own pressures. So you don't want to be the people sat around the Christmas dinner table going, I made a right cobblers of that, I'm really sorry. So it's really about building a sustainable business. And the thing to remember when you're running a business is you're a custodian. So somebody's going to come after you, somebody's going to run that business. So it's about creating a business that is sustainable, has succession plans, and is a viable going concern. So really it's about continuing to test ourselves, get feedback from people. What are we good at? What are we not good at? Where are the opportunities? And then how do we go and exploit them?
Yeah.
It's a good vision. So who knows where we're all going to be in 5 years' time, but yeah, putting that.
If you went back to 2019 and said, right, what are you going to do the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to spend 6 weeks locked up in the house.
Well, that's the thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like, so with best laid plans and all that, we don't want to halt for us all, but like I said, to have the vision that you've got though, in terms of, I think a lot of what you've said is accountability. And I think that's a really good thing to have, you know, like I say, you've got these people working for you, like I say, it's somebody's brother, mother, father, son, daughter, whatever that might be, but you want the best for the people in the business as well, and you know that that's what will carry you forward. And
it's really about having, it's not, we haven't got it right yet, but it's about what's our, if I was to explain our vision perfectly, what the real measure of success of that is, I can go out to everybody on the shop floor, go, what are we doing here? And they go, we work at Bensons because we want to create great careers in engineering and manufacturing and want to deliver outstanding service to our customers and be recognised as being a great people to work with by our suppliers. Or maybe some better phrasing, I'm sure there's some marketing people in the building.
AI potentially to do
it. Yes, actually, yeah. So it's really getting everybody on the same hymn sheet. So you've got that apocryphal story from the 60s of an astronaut going into a factory, there's a guy sweeping up going, what are you doing? So I'm helping to put a man on the moon. So everybody's got that vision and that goal.
That's a great analogy.
So it's getting everybody on the same hymn sheet, pulling in the same direction, enjoying what they're doing, because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what are you doing it for?
You're at work a long time, aren't you?
Yeah, so it's really making it a rewarding and pleasurable experience as much as you can do.
And obviously, we've had a partnership for quite some time.
Yes.
I've been here for 15 years and obviously always been involved in that to a certain extent. You know, how have we supported you over the years as a business?
So obviously we've got, I was thinking about, trying to think how long we've been working with Rittal. It goes back a really long way. Considerably predates me. So the way I look at this is when we went through the pandemic, we had a few supply chain challenges. Yeah. And the only company I didn't worry about was Rittal, because we'd ring up and go, I need some cabinets, and we can't do anything without a cabinet, and they'd arrive. And that was, I just didn't have to worry. Whereas everybody else was going, oh, you can have it it'll be 8 weeks, and I'm going to put 5 price rises through this year. It just didn't happen with Rittal. So that was great. So it's really one of those partnerships where you can rely on the other side. And the other really good bit is nobody's perfect. So at Bensons, when we make a mistake, we fess up and we fix it. And Rittal's exactly the same. So periodically, somebody drops a ball or something like that. There's none of this, well, it's your fault. It's Rittal owns it and Rittal fixes it, and that's in my mind, that's a mark of a mature company, and that's the sort of people you want to work with.
I don't think you can move forward or you can better yourselves unless you admit we get it wrong, and we've said this before as well, that a business is nothing more than a collective of people. People make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're just humans ultimately, all striving to do better, and I think that's the big thing for us is we're trying, we'll admit that we don't always get things right, but we're striving to do better.
Yes. And everybody makes a mistake. If you make the same mistake 3 times, then you want to be questioning yourselves, but again, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and again, through the pandemic, that's something, I think as a business we were really proud of. Obviously being privately owned as well, like you talk about being a family-owned business, and obviously we're still part of that same mentality as well, still being a privately owned business, but the supply chain that we've got as well helped us through the pandemic, and for us, it was a real strength of ours during that time. Like I said, something we felt quite proud of, that we were still able to supply a lot of these projects that still needed to be completed, despite what else was going on in the world. So
strengthened relationships, didn't it, with customers and things. But like you say, it's not about making a mistake; it's how you
how you deal with
respond and deal with it, isn't it? And like you say, fess up is the best way, and get it nipped in the bud as soon as you can.
Get it sorted.
So Matthew, the mystery question bucket or jar, whatever you want to call it. Jar of Doom.
Do you ever tend to refer to it as?
Bring it on.
Pick one, let's see.
Are they all the same?
Maybe.
Everyone's different.
Even I don't know.
Ooh.
Read it out, go on.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
And your answer is?
Well, I'm not the one here answering the questions, it's you.
So we can't do something really simple.
Yeah.
That's not being derogatory, but you...
Jam, sponge and custard, wasn't it? Like something like that, like just over and over again.
I'd go pizza every time.
Really?
I like it.
What flavour pizza?
Well, that's the benefit, you see, you can have lots of different flavours. So I went through a spell a few years ago, every time I went to a pizza shop, I'd order a capricciosa, because they always do, everyone's different, so you just don't know what you're going to get.
Right, okay. What's your favourite pizza topping corner then?
Something spicy that makes you think twice about what you've just done.
And is it homemade or shop bought?
It depends. So if we want to keep the kids entertained on a Saturday afternoon, we make pizzas.
That's not a bad. We make our own pizza a lot. Love making pizza dough.
And the great thing is you can eat it afterwards, so it's win-win, isn't it? You're entertained for a while.
It's never any left or right.
I have to clean up though. That's the difference. Yeah, I have to clean the kitchen afterwards. So.
I seem to end up doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been really interesting to talk to you.
Yeah, really good.
It might actually be at some point, it could be quite interesting to possibly come up, visit yourselves, speak to some of the apprentices. Maybe that's something worthwhile doing at a future date.
That would scare the pants off them. But yes, that'd be
worthwhile doing then on that basis.
But it's a learning opportunity. Yeah.
We'll stick a microphone in the face and go, what's Bensons all about? So train them the strap line by the time we get there.
We videoed Dan actually just when he just started, and we sat him down in the middle of the shop floor as part of the video that we shot for the big company. And he was like Jonathan Ross. He was absolutely brilliant.
Usually the most unassuming ones are, to be fair.
Yeah.
But no, it's been really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
No, thank you for inviting me down. It's been great.
No problem. Thanks. So thank you to Matthew for this episode. Hopefully you found that very interesting, because I know we did. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to unboxed@rittal.co.uk. If you want to catch the next episode, just keep your eye out on socials, like and subscribe, and we'll see you then.